Oh wait, now we're on. Okay. It takes a while. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Tokyo Philosophical Society. I'm at the helm of this broadcast, which is not normally the case. If anything goes wrong, it's entirely my fault. Also, our fans will probably be surprised to see that I am back at least tonight from my long, busy season hiatus. So that's something.
He's researching into the nature of the self and metaphysics. So continue that up, Jesse. We'll be looking forward to your report later.
Cool. Keep anticipating this. But anyways, tonight we'll be, as our tradition has dictated for the past year, here we have our Halloween in obscure horror movie episode. Tonight we'll be discussing a movie by the title of Kairo. I believe the English title is Pulse.
Yes.
Available on Hulu in Japan, and did anybody confirm whether or not you can get it in America?
It's on YouTube,
Yeah,
at least
it's
for
on
the time being.
Straight on YouTube. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube, yeah.
Okay, and so, yeah, that's an option.
Yeah, at least for now, anyway. It's an option.
Watches our broadcast tapes again. So where to begin with this?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's begin with the title. Okay, so in Japanese it's called Kairo, and in English it's called The Pulse. So I'm guessing that the translation had something to do with the fact that there were some kind of legal rights up for grabs. Obviously, Kairo does not mean pulse. It means body warmer, and we all know that. Well, am I wrong about that? I mean, okay, I did some actual in-depth research on IMDb, and according to the IMDb...
Oh, God, no, please tell me it doesn't say that.
Kairo means the road back home. So, okay, I admit I was wrong. It does not mean body warmer. It means the road back home.
Oh, we got Kairo on the Kairo.
Is that not what it means?
This is starting so weirdly.
Not the road back?
Yeah.
It's not the road back home, IMDb.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay, well then, well that's just ridiculous. Okay, then obviously it just means a city in Egypt.
Oh God.
Getting worse. It's getting worse.
What does it mean? What does it mean? What is the actual meaning of this title? What is the meaning of this title? Anyone?
Circuit.
So there we go. Circuits. It means circuits. I don't know why we can't get that right. I don't know what's going on that we can't get this right. And it is a difficult movie to understand, so maybe it just started with the translation. It's kind of thematically fits with this movie, doesn't it? Like the inability to communicate. It started right here. We couldn't get the title right. I know that when I was watching this movie, sometimes my Shiko Kairo was Shoto Sunzen. My thoughts were about to short circuit, but I don't know what I can do. I'm so naive.
Oh God! Oh God! This is getting such. This joke is on too many levels. Stop.
Okay. So,
before we move on, you also want to point out. Well, of course, the kanji is absolutely the circuit kanji. I think that there is some thematics with the name, because we use different kanji. There's quarter, which is also thematically appropriate, and sea route.
Yeah, there's a way you could say it with sea route.
Yeah, which also plays into the start and end of the movie. I'm wondering, I was curious whether or not these were intentional.
Yeah.
All of this was in the mind of the director who chose this title, director or script, or whoever chose the title.
Right, I was actually interesting. I had the exact same thought. I'm not sure. And it's also interesting to know that in Japanese too, like Kairo, like I was just kind of making a joke about before, it doesn't necessarily mean like a computer circuit per se. You can say Shiko Kairo, which means kind of what your what's a good way to like your thought process?
Yeah.
Your thought process, which in other words, it's kind of like a path, or it can be
Passageway
a
or
passageway or something like it. They can use it in a way that it means like a passageway or a connection. And I think that's a big theme here is that in Kairo is kind of being used in its immediate sense of being a circuit, a computer circuit, but it's also like it's a kind of connection to something else.
Yeah,
It's a link to something else.
As the kanji is literally like circular road.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So obviously it means the path, the road back. Oh wait, no. So it's a link to something else. It's a link to a path to something else, a connection to something else. So right. I mean, you got to just know that going into the movie. I don't know what Pulse is doing here, but whatever it is, it's confusing people.
All I can guess is that they were trying to go for modem pulse.
Okay.
Pulse communications, but
I don't know. It loses a lot of nuance there.
Yeah, but yeah, the internet stuff is really not as strong as they would have made you think from the beginning of the movie. They kind of drop it halfway through.
Yeah. I wanna get there. So I don't know if it'll pay very much for us to just go through the entire plot of the movie.
Yeah.
There's plots going on at the same time. I don't. Do you want to touch on much of the plot, or we just want to jump right into how we felt about the film?
Well, I'm sure as we just talk about how we felt about the film, the plot will inevitably come up. Of course, this is going to be filled with spoilers. So, if you haven't seen Kairo, if you ever want to see Kairo, Pulse or whatever, definitely go see it first, and then let's just talk about what we thought about the movie as it was happening.
And I will throw this out. I should have mentioned this earlier, but we are going to give our don't watch recommendations at the end. So if you're curious of that and haven't seen it yet, skip to the end of the video. Probably the 2 to 3 minutes at the end of the video will be cool. Of course, we're not planned, and then you can judge based on our opinions.
Yeah. And also to mention that this film, it's strange that it is, and it's probably kind of on the first watch is very, I don't know, murky. Let's just put it like that. It's got a cult following to it. That was if you look on the internet there.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that actually. It's got
lots of people that really
even like if you check like the reviews in the States, like on Wikipedia, it got a lot of positive reviews and developed a cult following just from that.
Yeah. I've seen people say this is the greatest J horror film of all time, up at that level. Like, so this has got quite a cult following to it.
God, I was even curious whether you would call it horror.
Right. Yeah. I think we should talk about that. Is this horror?
It's
has ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's got like a creepy atmosphere. The visuals kind of are horror-like visuals, but I mean, is it about ghosts, like ghosts haunting you per se? Maybe not, right? Ghosts out to kill you and attack you? Maybe not like that, though, is it?
I mean, if there's a horror, it's got to be about the horror of the human situation.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, the horror of being alone, the horror of not connecting with anyone.
Oh, I would say probably you're being killed or whatever by ghosts is not so much the standard. If the express purpose of the video was to the movie was to scare you, and I'm not sure that's what's going on in this movie. And there are some scenes that are kind of meant to unnerve you, make you feel uncomfortable. Well, especially earlier on, but as it progresses, there's very few parts where it seems like it's trying to build to a scare, to like install fear into you. Looks like it's trying to make you feel something else.
I think it was. I mean, like Japanese horror films do. There's a lot of slow burns there, and they definitely tend to go for atmosphere over scare. Creepiness over scare, and this is one of these cases I think where I don't know, like you're right. It's more less scary than I don't know. It's almost depressing.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my first time through, I just want to say I felt a little disappointed. I expected more payoff in some areas of like the build up for some scares, like trash bag overhead guy. I was expecting a little bit more out of that. It didn't go as cool as I thought it would. But you know, I mean, like it doesn't impinge upon like the theme of depression or
I wonder
loneliness. But
I mean, like the ghosts don't look like your typical Japanese ghosts or even any kind of ghost, right? They look like people
yeah,
in most of the film, right? I mean, they don't have like darkened out eyes or I don't know, like a Sadako kind of hair and whatever, no feet or whatever. Like most of the ghosts just look like people, but even that you can say is thematically correct.
Mm.
mm,
I mean, they're trying to say kind of that people are kind of like ghosts. The
mm,
way they live their life, they're already like ghosts in a certain way.
yeah. I mean, like living in cities, or I guess living on the internet, turns you ghost-like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be what's sitting in the background here. I
Mm.
mean, it's almost like explicitly brought up in the beginning where her mother shows up at her house and she's like, "Oh, living in the big city, right? You gotta be able to talk to people." She's like, "No, mom, I'm all okay, right?"
Yeah,
I mean,
your
it's
dad, he's right there. He's right by you. You can talk to your dad.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got friends, mom. Don't worry about it, right?
Yeah, that was Michi. That's one of the main characters, right? And I think one of the big things in this film has got to be a breakdown of communication.
Mm.
Like Michi, basically, she's not basically in contact with her family anymore. She doesn't care. She's kind of lost that connection already. Also, remember like what's his face, Kawashima, what's his face, Ryosuke or something.
Yeah,
The,
Yosuke.
the I don't know, the stoner dude or whatever he was, the kind of cool dude, Japanese guy, Ryosuke.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah,
the first time when he walks into the computer room and he just goes up to this guy in the corner and is one of this
yeah, yeah.
top side guy and he's like, hey, does like the internet, does the internet like just connect to you all by itself? And the guy's like, what? No, what? And he's like, well, yeah, I want to see a site or something. He's like, oh, it sounds like a hacker, right? But the communication isn't happening, right? Like he tries really hard to talk to this guy, but this guy is just gone already. He's in the computer. So he
Mm.
just kind of he loses interest in this conversation. He walks away, and then he meets someone much hotter. So that's okay. What is her name? Harue or something? Is it
Yeah, yeah,
Harue? And then they kind of have a connection later. But there's a lot of moments where people aren't communicating or they can't communicate with one another. They kind of lost the ability to connect to one another,
yeah.
even in littler scenes like that, which is
Yeah, I
interesting.
don't know. I thought this interesting. It's tough to sift apart some of the messages. Like you could tell. I mean, there's
This
a
film is
scene.
very opaque. I'll give
I
you that.
know. Yeah. There's this scene. Okay, so I'll give you that message. I think that's so there. But
Mm.
there's another scene in the movie where I mean they put this in explicit. It's so on purpose. It's not even funny. Where in the background the TV news is happening,
Oh
and it's
God,
this
that's that one.
story. Right, it's this story about a guy who threw a bottle into the water, I guess, right? And it was
Yeah.
found like
10 years later
15,
in
10,
Malaysia.
15 years later in Malaysia, right? I mean, isn't the message that wasn't that's supposed to give you like you never know where that's going to go. You never know where your communication is going to end up. You never know what world that's going to touch on, right? I mean, that's part of this movie Kairo, where like it's this other world that we've somehow connected with. You never know where your message is going to go.
Which and that plays into. It was, I remember when the kind of bizarre Ijiwaru Daikaku Senpai Harume, he's giving his thesis. That's I don't. Of course, this is kind of like this was a moment. It's like, what do you have the script man? What's going on?
Yeah.
But he somehow has this thesis of how this something happened that nobody really knows is going on at this point. Nobody should know what is going on at this point in the movie, but except for the viewer. So yeah, he explains how the connection.
This is the scene in the library you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Scene in the library,
exactly.
right? Yeah, like all of a sudden he's sitting there, and all of a sudden this guy, like we don't know who he is. He's out of whatever he pops in. I think he's like the director's, or like Avatar, or something. Like he pops in, he explains a little bit about the ghost, and then he disappears again. Right? Um, we don't
Yeah.
really get to know him that well. But yeah, my question is, how did he know that? I'm not sure. I guess that scene has to be evidence that it's happening on a much bigger scale than what's going on just with these people. It's the
Yeah.
only explanation I can give to that scene.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, I'm sorry. But yeah, the bizarreness of how he knew that. Stuff like his point was, that connection it probably happened completely by accident.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah, just
So
randomly
it
appeared.
plays back into that bottle. It's like, there's no way that guy leaked through the bottle. All he would see is like, okay, go to Malaysia.
Yeah.
I guess in a certain sense, wouldn't you call that kind of feeling like a kind of almost, I don't want to say Lovecraft, but like there's this deep one deep in the earth, and by accident we drill down and we let out the net, and it's deep in the earth. Whereas in this case, we've sent a message out into the internet, but we didn't know that it was connecting to something else out there. Right? I guess, is there kind of a horror there?
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many. So yeah, there's that. There's the thing which you mentioned before, but then also it almost feels like just as you're watching the movie. I mean, you think about Yosuke, you think about Michi. It feels like these people just kind of emerged out of nothingness. You know what I mean? It seems like they have no lives, they have no friends, they had really nothing beyond the thing that's around them. I don't know if that's intentional, or I mean, like he's kind of like, I had a friend. I mean, he does. There's that scene. He's like, I did have a friend, and I never figured out what kind of person she was. Like, but I don't know. The characters seem so. I don't know. How would you even describe Yosuke? He likes Coca-Cola. He doesn't understand computers. Yeah. I mean, like beyond that, he's kind of, he just appears, right? And I don't know. It doesn't feel like he has much of a life at all. Like I was surprised. She's like, or at the end, she's like, "Did you have any friends?" He's like, "Yeah, I had one." Kana, hitori ita kana, and you're kind of like, really? Really, you look like the kind of guy who would have a bunch of friends. Isn't that supposed to be your character, by the way? You're like you're a guy that doesn't know computers. He kind of is like nagasareteru, right? He's just joining the internet because that's what everyone else does, right? He's gonna get caught up in the big wave, right? So what was he doing all this time? We just emerged with no friends.
All I imagine is that maybe that was kind of calm. This whole thing is one of the things about his relationship with Holiday. She says, what was it? What was it? I think it was the apartment when she had her first little incident. She has several little incidents throughout the entire movie. But I think it was here where she says, people seem like they're connected, but they really aren't. They're all a little separated. And maybe this is kind of trying to play this. Maybe he had other, people who you would consider friends, but because he didn't have that connection that he felt he was starting to make with Haruhi, he didn't see those people as friends.
I do like that. I think there must be something to that, but it does. I didn't feel that connection between them, to be perfectly honest. But I do like that interpretation. I mean, that seems right.
Isn't the same thing true then for Taguchi, the first guy that disappeared? Right? I mean, like he committed suicide, and they seemed somewhat unconcerned.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, let's move on, forget about it. They were a little disturbed, but
let's have some coffee or tea or whatever.
Yeah, and then they're like, why did he do it? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to die. And then they're like, well, he seemed normal enough. But I guess it kind of seems like they didn't really know what the hell he was doing or who he was at all.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of if there's a criticism here, I think it's that sometimes the director, to make his social commentary, sacrifices part of the world to do it, right?
Yeah. Actually, I think probably the moments the movie scene was seemed like it was building towards something, and it kind of got up, in my opinion. And maybe I've only watched it once and was not in the best of mind states as you two might be able to guess, but it seemed like they were building for something, and I can identify the exact moment and it seems like the movie it got off rail. This is one of those things where the Shacho, the president of Michi's company, he says, lay down oral exposition.
I love this scene. That's exactly 40 minutes in, by the way. It's about 40 minutes in because I love his line. I just love his line. He's like, 俺は何もしないな. That takes courage. I just love the delivery too. He like walks around, he puts out the chair, and he's like, he sits down in his chair. He's like, 俺は何もしないな.
Yeah, that scene was so jarring for me.
Yeah.
It like took me out of the movie. It felt like the movie went downhill from there.
Later he vanished because of his uncaring attitude. I guess they got him. The ghosts got him, but right, still, yeah.
They got everyone.
Yeah, they got everyone. Literally, they got everyone. Planes were falling from the sky. They even got the plane pilots. In mid-flight, no less. I guess they were duct taping the cockpit. Right?
There was time, right? There's that time lag between when they disappear, when they see the ghost and when they disappear.
So he's kind of like flying a plane, like, and he turned into a stain on the seat.
And that wasn't a Japanese plane, by the way.
Yeah. That was the Americans falling out of the sky. And that wasn't even Okinawa. Huh.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Real social commentary. Okay.
That's right. That's where you're coming here. TPS, social commentary. Yeah, but Jesse, I totally agree. Like the first 30 minutes feel like they're building up to something, and like at 40 minutes, this Shacho gives a speech, and it's kind of like, oh, he's one of these uncaring guys. This is all about like connections, and then even at I tried to map it a little. 46, right? The dots, right? Dots emerge, right? This is thing in the movie, dots, right? These dots in the computer program.
That's the life simulating computer program, right?
Yeah, the ghost dots appear at about 46 minutes. Like I guess when two dots smush each other and then a ghost dot emerges or something. They weren't quite articulate about
No. Like the program, the initial, it's like one of those life programs, but the initial program is that the dots. When they get too close together, they die. But when they get too far apart, they start chasing each other.
No, when they get too far apart, they die too.
No, they start chasing each other.
They start chasing.
Oh, they're chasing each other.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this weird, I don't know, close to a hedgehog's dilemma kind of thing. But the hedgehogs usually don't kill each other when they get too close. But so like in other words, you can't get too close, but you can't go far apart. So no, these dots are kind of trapped in this kind of wandering loneliness forever, but then like later the program shows up, and then they have what she sees like some kind of aberration in the program where these ghost dots appear, and then they hit the dots and then they just disappear, right? Is the deal, right? Like they just appeared out of nowhere and they started killing the other dots in the same way that reality is starting to work like that, right?
Yeah, so the program was a lot smarter than she realized it was. It also read the script.
Yeah, the program also read the script, and it knew it accurately simulated a ghost invasion, which is actually, I have to high five that guy. Wow, who knew? That's got to be some clever coding. I wish I could code for a ghost invasion.
How do you get your program to work right? How do you get your program to work right?
How do you do that?
You input a script.
What? I lost that. I lost the train there.
Your program script, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. They put the movie script. All right. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It was a long show.
I'm working on full today here.
I don't know. Yeah. Like, okay. So help me out here. Like, this is where things start getting weirder and weirder, though, because all right. So this movie's all about loneliness and being alone and stuff, right? And the ghost dots are appearing now, and
this is also when Ijiwara Senpai shows up first.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they cut to the library with the ghost, just standing there.
Yeah, that was 52 minutes in, right? So that's when Mr. Crazy guy comes with his theory. The senpai, her senpai comes with his theory about. I guess ghost space is not infinite. It's kind of like the chamber in the Ghostbusters place, right? It's not infinite, right? It could fill up, I guess.
Yeah.
So
when hell is full, they will come rising up.
they come rising up, and I guess then again, it's not quite clear what exactly is going on, because then Haruhi starts getting her own personal theory, which is that the ghosts don't want us to die. The ghosts want us to live on in solitude, because if we die, there'd just be more ghosts. Is this her crazy ramblings? Is this what's really happening?
There is that kind of, I don't know. At first, I thought that was what was going on, because the people just kind of stay there with the stains and said "Tasukete, Tasukete, Tasukete," because they were vanishing, but they were stuck in like a intermediate purgatory. I thought what was going on there. Yeah. Where then you get to that final ghost who looks very, very, I don't know, doesn't look like, but he just reminded me of Jim so much. So you have the Jim ghost, and he said, he gives a little bit of bizarre exposition. He says, Shinu no korokute naga, or something like that. Yeah, and he says that dying is just this isolated loneliness. It's like, then what's the difference? Isn't this what's happening to these stains?
Yeah.
How is this different? That's where my kind of understanding of her theory fell apart.
Yeah, so, I don't get how these are supposed to come together.
Can I put them together?
Cool.
Please do.
Okay, so I could be wrong here, but my thought is that this universe, whatever universe Mr. Kurosawa Kiyoshi, the director, created, is like a very dark, pessimistic universe in which there are these people that are lonely their entire lives, and the internet is making them even lonelier, or better prey for loneliness. Mm-hmm. And they're so lonely that they get desperate and they kill themselves because they feel like it's easier. That if they lose their body, maybe they can go back and see their family and friends waiting for them in the afterlife. Okay, but what the ghost reveals in the end is that that's not what happens. They're tricked. Like, when they kill themselves, they're just lonely there. But this time forever. So there's no winning the game in this world, right? You can't opt out. It's kind of like this kind of weird Schopenhauer moment, right? Like, you can't commit suicide, man. You just go back to the life force. So you can't win this game. But in this one, you remain an individual, just forever alone in this outer region. It's connected, right? So, in other words, these ghosts are sitting out there in the same way that they were in life, except maybe 1,000 times worse, to the point where their lives are so bad that they're coming back in this world, and this is where my theory might get weird. They're coming back in this world to kill themselves for good, right? Like, that's the collision. The ghosts contact the people so that they can go to oblivion. They want to die for good, to just disappear. And that's what the ghosts are up to. They want to just disappear like those dots. They just blip out of the universe. In other words, like, oblivion is preferable to death?
But where do we see the ghosts disappear? They start it starts out where they're confined to the Akazunoma, right?
Yeah.
And then as they proliferate and people all begin disappearing more and more, we start seeing them outside the Akazunoma.
The only clue I have is to that computer program.
But the ghost doesn't disappear. Or it like jumps around erratically. It's still there. It's just like vanishing.
Like, what do you think that? I'm just interested. I kind of, it's an interesting theory, but like, so I was just wondering how you combine that theory with one of the very last scenes where he says, if I tsukamaeru you, if I catch you, you're done. So he puts his hands on the shoulders and he doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that would be.
Yeah, that would be the two guys.
That would be where they both extinguish each other. right there, that moment. But he doesn't disappear at that moment, right?
But that meeting is what kills him.
That's true. That meeting is what kills Ryosuke. Yeah.
I mean, if in that moment he realized, maybe if I can just step my theory back a little bit and say, in that moment he realized that there's nothing waiting in the afterlife.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no hope.
There's no hope. Yeah, yeah.
There's no hope at all. You either just carry on in this meat sack, unable to really connect with people, and then you just die eventually alone, really never connecting, and you just stay alone. But whatever you do, there's just nothing. There's no hope, and he just loses the will to live, and he just fades away.
Though there is that queer because how Michi interacts with these stains. Means if you remember, first
I love that sentence.
Wow, that is
yes. So first of all, you remember there's several points in this movie where people look at the stains and they see the person sitting there. There and with what was it?
Kaguchi?
The Nantaka-kun and her kohai. He's the second stain. And, she walks and she sees him and says, "What the hell are you doing? And standing here, I've been looking all over you." And she realizes, "Oh shit, I was mistaken. It was a stain." And we see her walk out as this. You see from the the stain's perspective, of her walking out, and you just hear the voice of the guy saying, "Tasukete, help me," over and over again. And then when Junko becomes the stain, for some reason she's a mobile stain. I mean, the wind, and this weirded me out too. Why does the wind blow her away and not like any of the other stains? But she tries to catch the stain and screams, "Ikanai, don't go, don't leave me," to this stain. And then in the end with Yosuke, he's just a stain sitting in a room, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm enjoying hanging out with my last friend here."
Yeah.
So she doesn't see these stains as going into oblivion. She sees them as that person.
This is true. Yeah. So maybe they're not destroyed. Maybe it's that they're called to that. They're called to that mysterious other world. Kind of like the way the internet would kind of, I don't know, sucks people up into it.
I mean, it makes more sense when you think about his social commentary, right? Like he's become like this super hikikomori otaku, right? On that level, these things make sense.
I mean, like the taping up the doors and stuff, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
That sounds exactly like a hikikomori.
Well, because I'm not entirely sure what the statistics for like internet addiction and hikikomori were back 15 years ago, but I don't. Hikikomori is there's always been them, of course, but it seemed to be like a more recent boom once the internet became more accessible and you didn't have to put in your AOL disk and type it online to use it.
I don't know. Never underestimate Japan's ability to pick on geeks.
Yeah, right. I have a feeling this director had it out for the technology world as like separating you, like all those guys at the computer stations all alone, even though they're together in a room, right? I mean, it started with the guy alone in a room with his mountain of discs facing the computer, right? I think he's got it out for this kind of stuff. The director, locked in your room, the doors taped shut, right? I mean, it felt to me like a critique of living in the city, but also what technology will do to us.
Yeah, I mean,
of course there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I obviously that's there. I want to expand it. I want to say that I'm going to force this reading on though. My forced reading of the film is that it's a critique of capitalist isolation.
So okay, I want to ask you about. So I kind of like where you're going with this, but okay. For a film that's about capitalist isolation, I just like
an alienation.
Isn't the ending a little ironic?
No.
No, I mean, so you're taking it as like a Walking Dead, like zombie movie-esque ending, is in other words, like that her and the remaining people who actually have like real lives
Yeah,
venture
well, I
forth,
mean, when
right? Like, but
they're
they end up separated and alone from almost everyone too. Well, I mean,
well,
okay, I'll give
there
you
is
your
no yeah, there is no hope in this world,
yeah.
and under this crazy, super hyped up capitalist alienated world, even love is impossible. It seems because the closest we get to love is this one moment, and then she's gone with
How,
Haruhi, and we get close to kind of a love story, but it's never there. So I don't know. In a world where you're alienated, you can never get close enough to kind of I don't know save each other. And see, it's obviously a Marxist film because they end up going to South America at the
Well, of course, of
end.
course.
See, it's where
Okay,
there's still
I'll
revolutionaries
I'll,
left.
I'll give you that. I'll give you.
yeah, there is that scene if you remember when because Yosuke is as even when things have really shit has really hit the fan, and he's still utterly unconcerned. And if you remember, Haruhi has her first little incident where she talks about how she had wanted, wondered what it'd be like to die until she was at high school, and she thought, what if I'm going to be lonely after death? That's again playing into that last ghost there, the gym ghost. And after she has this moment, the next thing we see, he's at the game center playing metal games. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, wait, what? What? People are vanishing. There's ghosts. You saw the damn ghost. Obviously, something fucked up's going on here. Your love interest is. But anyway,
You got to take a break somewhere, man.
yeah. And I did like it was very appropriate how in the background of his metal games, because he goes to that game center twice in the movie.
Street Fighter? Are you taking it? You gonna?
Yes, Street
Okay.
Fighter and Tekken 1,
Okay.
and are in the background. And it starts with people. In the first scene, there are people playing it, and fighting each other. They're on both, actually on both consoles. So you have two people fighting each other. There, and then in the scene when nobody's there, it's playing the demo. So you is still fighting. And God, I think it was Guile. Well, but it's just the demo. There's not anything playing. And I found that interesting. But he goes back and finds Haruhi smashing things with a stick. Like, it might as well have been a hammer when she was smashing pots. It's, symbols of agriculture. So that was kind of where your sickle there, right?
Oh yeah, good, good. Keep it all in here. Hey, and just think about just think about all the scenes where this movie takes places. I mean, they're kind of scenes of empty, desolate isolation. They're places where you would kind of feel, I don't know, alone in a crowd, as it were. I mean, there's an arcade. I mean, like even when you're in an arcade, you don't know anybody there really, usually, unless you go with a friend. A factory, a city, a bus. The bus. I actually really liked the way the bus scenes were shot.
That
Thought it
with
was
the
really
freaky background?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It looked like there was like this old film playing behind the bus. I thought that was really
yeah.
neat and clever, and it kind of added to the isolation, the feeling of isolation. They're always alone in that bus too. Um, so there's kind of always ominous feeling of isolation. And it's clever how the movie becomes depopulated itself right to the very end when there's just nothing left, even in Tokyo, which give us 200 years and that just might be true um, at the current birth rate. So I don't know. It was clever. I mean, like I enjoy seeing scenes of Tokyo where there's nobody there. I thought that was
Me too.
clever. I mean, it was a clever idea. It was cleverly shot. The scenes are dark and eerie. Um, the way the film was shot was I think it was done well.
Yeah.
I mean, like even the scene
And
where the woman commits suicide up in the background, that
yeah,
was really well done.
that was well done too. I thought that.
That shot, I thought that shot was great.
Yeah,
I
that was
really
great.
enjoyed that shot where she jumped off the tower. The bus shots. I thought the first ghost that behind the tape that was doing the really weird movie thing. I thought that
Yeah,
was
that
really
was
really
good.
well done. 2. So I really enjoyed those scenes a lot.
The camera work I felt was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, even like when Ijuwara Senpai comes in the first time, I mean, you see his shadow coming at first. And it's like you first think, holy wait, what the fuck's going on here? And then he follows in, and it's like, oh, it's a person. But the very next scene, it's in the library where the shadow, the ghost is just the shadow.
Yeah. I think you're totally right about that. I think this was shot very, very well. Considering the budget and the time constraints and things that they had, I think they did a great job shooting the film.
It's interesting. Even the car at the end they were sitting in, the reflections on the car, the car's reflecting that scene at the tower where the woman committed suicide at the end after Ryosuke had his moment too. It's that tower is sitting like reflected on top of them, and during the last scenes.
Wow,
it's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I took it in a kind of a weird, like, this is a critique of capitalist alienation, but I mean. Of course, it's possible reading, maybe a forced reading, but this guy definitely has a problem with Japanese society.
Yeah.
This is obviously a critique of Japanese society. I mean, the last thing you do is they leave Japan.
Yeah.
That's their solution, is run away, because this place is lost. But it's just telling that they don't go to America. Right? I mean, like, the first place you think to run would be like, oh, okay, let's go to a nice, rich, little place that we know right over there, Hawaii or America or something. No, they specifically aim for South America.
Though,
true.
There it's kind of implied that they were at this for a while, so we don't know whether or not that was their first destination.
Yeah, it just seems like, you're right. I mean, it seems like, with the plane going down, that America has been. America is just as bad as Japan, right? I mean, we don't see it ever, but it's implied, I guess, that America is suffering the same fate due to the technological capitalist nature of their society. No, but I mean, it just seems like it's also implied that America is suffering the same fate as Japan is, and that their last hope is to go to this kind of non-technological society where human relations still exist on some kind of real level. And that place is South America, I guess, as what they're guessing. Good luck with that when you get there, guys. But it does feel, like you said, like it does. At the end of it feels like a zombie movie, like sailing out into the sea in the hopes that somewhere normal people still exist.
Yeah, there's still some vibrant human community waiting for you somewhere, right? But
the depressing nature of this guy, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't feel like that's possible.
I know.
I found that it was very interesting how this movie used ghosts. Because normally, maybe this is for cliche as 101, but zombies represent the present, aliens represent the future, monsters represent the unknown, ghosts represent the past. Yes, but the ghosts weren't really the past here. They were almost the future.
Yeah.
I'm sure these were people who had died in the past, but they were representing this is what you become.
Right. I do think this film, for all its flaws, I think it was doing some clever things, right? I mean, like, maybe it's kind of weird. I like the idea of this film more than the film.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, Cabin in the Woods, that film, I like the idea of that film more than the film. Because, like, when I sit here and think about the stuff that it's talking about, it's really actually pretty interesting. The stuff they were doing and the stuff he's trying to say. Actually, I had a lot more. I enjoyed the second viewing more than the first viewing of the film for that reason. Because I knew that I could ignore some aspects, and I wasn't sitting there constantly guessing about whose theory is right, what's going on. Like, I just wanted to see scenes of desolation and isolation and being alone and the terror and the horror of being alone, and that's really where the heart of the film is anyway. So, are the ghosts disappearing? What are they doing? What are they calling people out? Why isn't that guy disappear at the end? These questions, I guess, I don't know. Do they have an answer? I'm not sure. But, I mean, obviously, if they don't have an answer, it's probably because he wanted the the societal commentary to speak louder than anything here. I mean, it comes through loud and clear, at least to me.
Yeah. No, I definitely like. I'm with you on this. I really like what he was trying to do. It felt like it felt like it could have been better.
Yeah.
A lot better. I mean, the plot was so disjointed that we don't really know, what the ghosts were doing, what was going on there. I mean,
yeah, I mean, just think about the idea. It's really clever that like somehow we accidentally connected to this other world, and that we're slowly being invaded by it, and people are disappearing, and the movie ends with an isolated Tokyo, and we're setting sail for new horizons. I mean, like when you say it like that, like wow, how huge is the scale of this film, right? I mean, like it. In the end, I mean, like for such a lower budget film, it has an unexpectedly huge scale, right?
Yeah.
Beyond the connection that I think any of us were thinking the first time we saw it. Like we didn't expect the world to disappear, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh shit! Yes. Which I just had to throw that as just hurt me, but remember, because the two dots on the computer roll when they meet, they disappear, and that's what happened when we connected with Ghost World.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
That's
Like, but when you said you like the idea, again, I like the idea, but the transition from I don't know, I'm so torn on this. The transition from the personal story of these two stories to the world at large was I don't know, a jump that was very sudden, and on some level, it's almost like I don't know if he was purposely trying to do this, like. I don't know. It just sometimes when a new technology comes, like the internet, suddenly everyone's connected. When did this happen? Right? You know what I mean? You feel like it just happened overnight almost. But like the world disappearing seemed to happen overnight too. It just didn't. As the scale grew more and more, it just got. I don't know. I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel the world decaying until like. Late, I mean, they ran the TV news story. This person's missing. This person's missing. This person's missing. Empty streets.
There was nobody in Tokyo at that
Yeah.
point. My thought was, who's making this story?
Exactly. Who's making? I guess people are leaving vending machines unlocked now. I don't know. Like it's something. It's just everything. It's chaos. It's madness. Get free drinks from your vending machines.
There were dogs and cats living together once.
Yes. I don't know. I kind of wish the world disappearing had been fleshed out a little bit more.
I totally agree with you. I just don't think they could do it.
Yeah, just on their budget. Yeah.
I mean, the movie it was kind of weird because it was so long. I mean, 2 hours is not a short movie. It's not there are much longer movies, of course, but. It felt like it needed to be shorter and longer at the same time. If that makes any sense.
No, I agree. I think some stuff could have been cut. I don't know.
Yeah, so they weren't really. It didn't feel like really a horror film. So much as maybe it's just trying to make the commentary shine louder than the horror, which is pretty cool. But if the commentary was in this transition that they were trying to show there, maybe let's take some of these slow, suspenseful movies where scenes where they're constantly making you think something scary is going to happen, and it inevitably doesn't. And maybe let's take some of these scenes out or cut them down, and show this transition a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it was a hard thing to do. I mean, just the scale got so big. It was probably going to be really hard to do. Although you're right. I mean, like, I suppose I would have enjoyed seeing the world disappear, kind of like in that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Right, where people are just like slowly disappearing, and Wesley notices it, right, and the ship's getting smaller and smaller, which is a really compelling episode. I really like that episode. But I guess, it seems like they wanted you to just kind of not enjoy, but feel the atmosphere of just isolation and dark, dreary, dead scenes, and again, like just the idea. Again, like I like the idea of it more than anything. Like we end on a shot of us kind of over the ship alone, and I mean, like we are isolated. We don't see anything around them, and the city becomes the movie itself becomes isolated. I mean, the idea is neat. It's all a lot of clever ideas, I think. So I want to give credit where credit is due.
Mm.
I think they were doing. I mean, it didn't. It certainly didn't. You can tell this. It certainly didn't follow any tropes, or at least not that many.
Mm.
In the areas you're talking about, yeah. I don't know. Some of the acting was, I felt, not so good.
Well, that's not a trope, but that's a Japan trope.
I mean,
Anyway.
should I say the lines? I mean, you're right. The acting was bad, but like, even the lines, I don't know, felt trope-y. But I suppose like if you're talking tropes, like as in plot devices, okay, yeah. Definitely.
I suppose that like I could work around some kind of like, well, that just shows you how bad the communication is, right? But right, I mean, like, right, it seems like I don't know, more than the words, the images were supposed to kind of speak to you and the feeling of isolation, I guess. So yeah, I mean, if you wanted clever dialogue, there wasn't a lot of clever dialogue here. Sunny Plant Company I thought was cute, and the Uranus. That's right.
Yeah, Uranus internet service.
Uranus internet service. It's perfect. Like I can see everyone on 4chan belongs to Uranus internet service.
The ghost came from Uranus.
Yeah. They pulled that right out of this.
That's the directory. Literally pulled it from.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just felt like, some of the line, some of the acting was iffy.
Especially Shacho.
Shacho, I wasn't even a big fan of Yosuke. I didn't think Yosuke's performance was anything to write home about.
I bet you liked Haruhi. Oh yeah.
Haruhi was all right, but like the scenes where like people are, like they're knocking stuff over and stuff, like that's I mean you walk over. I was kind of like, come on, what is she doing there even? It was just totally unconvincing to me. I don't know. I just didn't like that scene at all.
Oh, where she's clawing at the wall.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I'm so shocked and terrified. Well, I don't know what. Like, I'm so depressed. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not buying it. I didn't like that scene. I didn't like her acting there either. Didn't like Yosuke's acting very much.
It was all acceptable, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing like, it's not like it sank the movie, but it was like, Yeah,
I just felt it kind of played on how the characters were so like, unconcerned with what was going on with them. There's literally nobody around them, and finally, Yosuke and Michi meet up. They're like, oh, you're a student?
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really? This is the conversation you have? Not, what the fuck's going to happen to us? Don't leave. I haven't seen anybody all day. What the fuck's going on here? This is the conversation you have. Not, you're a Gakse, Ina.
Yeah.
Social nicety's got to come somewhere, right? Hey, how's the Tenki today? Oh, by the way, everyone's gone, but we're having good weather, aren't we?
Yeah.
Then they go back to Harue's apartment and they find the script.
Yeah.
The script tells them to go to the abandoned factory because it's very symbolically appropriate.
Yeah.
There's no way they could have known that without the script.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I get it, like, when she shoots herself, and then he runs up, he's like, oh, let's call the hospital. And, I don't know, I get it, but I was kind of like, really? The world is gone, and you're going to call the hospital after she shot herself in the head? Really? Okay, I don't know. I was just too disappointed the fact when she pulled the trash bag off her head, it was just her. I was like, oh, trash bag? Oh, okay. So you were wearing the trash bag on your head just to shoot yourself later, I guess? Is that what
was that like supposed to be a form of suicide? Is that the way that she was attempting suicide?
I mean, the guy in the video had the trash bag on his head too, and he shot himself. But I mean, so she was just hanging around the factory with the trash bag on her head, and he showed up, and she's like, okay, bang.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just,
But she did.
what was that supposed to be? What was that scene supposed to be?
All I can say is because she was not. She had the gun. And
Yeah.
it's not like she was threatening to commit suicide. I'd prior to Yosuke running up and trying to help her. There. When
Yeah.
he ran and tried to stop her, that's when she just went. That moment's known as she died like the dots in the program, and like the Shacho warned you. That when you're trying to help somebody, you'll end up carrying them more.
Yeah.
I would do nothing. That's a brave choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the real message of the film is she just really didn't like Ryosuke.
Not that into you,
Just,
Yosuke.
yeah, this is how not into you I am, right? Yeah. But then she sounded like she was the one approaching him, but
Yeah, well, I don't know, but there was a dynamic switch at the train, right?
uh,
She's like, I'm going home, and he's like, no, oh, don't go home. I'm not gonna let you go home. You stay here. I'll be right back. And she runs, and
Yeah.
then he runs to her apartment. And this is where it gets kind of scary. He's like,
yeah.
hey, let's live together. Or,
Yeah.
come on.
Again, I like that shot of the train. I like the shot of the train.
Yeah,
Right?
the sound of the train is fine. The dialogue in the train was not.
man.
I don't like his like, Janai, koko iru janai. Boku wa koko ni iru janai.誰もいないなんて言わないで。僕はここにいるじゃない. No, I'm sorry. No. You don't get to deliver that line. I'm sorry. I don't know. It was written poorly, so I'm not gonna blame the actor too much on that one. But it was just written poorly. That does not match him. I'm sorry. Those lines do not match him. That didn't work for me on any level. I was like, stop talking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't like the lines on that at all. But the shot was wonderful.
Yes. So, if someone was ragging Yosuke, I want to point out that when he sits Haruo down and says, "Okay, I'm going to see the driver," and he runs in the opposite direction of you can see the little driver's cat. See, they're in the last car on the train.
Mm.
And the driver, he wanted to run away from the camera, not towards the camera.
Oops.
And that's what ends up losing his girlfriend.
Yeah, well, when you're with a girl that just jumps out of a train rather than be with you, wow. Take the message, Ryosuke. This is all about the impossibility of love in modern capitalist society.
I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is she was so devoted to capitalism, so rather than being wrenched out of the capitalist grip, she would
ran back.
She ended up popping a cap in herself.
That's right. It's just it's that bad. I guess when the choice is Yosuke or nothing, she chose nothing.
I don't know.
That was the one thing that confused me. I was like,
why did she go back?
Isn't the one thing that can save this world love or something, right? But that's never shown. Like the director made a choice, and in his world, in the movie we saw, love didn't really exist that much.
Because that's again, and that was Haru's thing.
Yeah, it's this very dark world, right? Where that love really doesn't exist per se, or at least they don't believe in it. The people don't believe in it anymore.
Just like none, almost none. Like a couple people on a ship. You know what I mean? Like everyone else is gone. Like so, everyone outside this window over here, not a single one of them is in love. They're all just internet zombies.
I guess they weren't really in love, or anything in this world that just doesn't exist.
Well, maybe he's trying to say that love itself is a false connection.
I mean, if he's going that far, sure. But then, like, that ruins any chance of the love saving the world thing. You know what I mean? Like, what are they out on the ship doing then? Like, I mean, is the ship just like
surviving.
Surviving, you know what I mean? Like, we gotta live nobly despite our terrible fate, which is
It's
to
kind of
die
like a
as ghosts.
Camus, like,
Yeah, right.
shaking their
Like
fist at
shaking
the
their
world.
fists. I almost the first time I watched that, that's almost how I took it. I was almost taking it like we're just gonna live our lives, in spite of that fate, knowing that we're gonna die as ghosts and be alone.
I mean, that's where I have to go. He said, he says, we're gonna go to Nambe, we're gonna see if they're still alive, and he said, okay, what do you do? What do you do if people are still alive? And the captain says, and we just put them on the ship and we keep going.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like, what are they gonna do on the ship? I just don't get it. I don't know. I guess not have the internet.
Repopulate the Earth.
It's just they're gonna repopulate the Earth. They'll bury some of them in the ground and then kill everyone over a certain age and tell them they're all brothers and sisters. And
wow. So they were playing with their little Play-Doh boat. That was the ship of soul right there.
yeah.
I can't make a Sailor Moon reference, but you can make a Play-Doh reference. This feels unfair. Okay.
I think you should punish him in the name of the movie.
That's right.
Wow.
Do you believe in miracle loneliness?
Wow.
Anything else you guys want to say about the film?
Visually well done. I like the movement of the ghosts or whatever, the ghosty things. I like how they move. I like the shots.
It's very small, but if you remember when Junko, she gets pulled, Michi saves her, takes her back to the apartment, and you have Junko, she's up in the corner right there, and she's reaching for a blanket, but I really like what she did with her hand there. She does this, right? As she's reaching out, she's clicking a mouse.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't going insane, but it seemed very intentional. This motion.
That's interesting.
Jesse, that's not a mouse clicking motion.
Oh.
All
So
right.
the problem was she was doing it with her left hand. But, yeah, it seemed. Watch. If you want to just watch that scene and tell me if I'm crazy. See if I didn't believe I would like to hear it, but I think that was her clicking the mouse. As she reached for the light. So even I mean, this is a foray for impending doom. The fact that even though Nietzsche tried to pry her from the clutches of this ghost, she was still so addicted to this false connection, the internet. That she was, in reaching for that money, she was having internet spasms.
All right. We've I think talked for long enough. Final verdicts on the film. Can be short, brief, whatever you guys. Recommendation? Yes, no. What did you like? What did you hate? I don't know. Anything you want to say. Say your piece and let's get out of here.
All right. Okay, I'll go. I guess I would say if you do watch it, don't go into it thinking it's going to be like your standard horror fare by any means. Me personally, I don't see myself watching it again, probably ever. This was enough for me. There were some creative shots, but there was not enough for me to keep my interest in this movie. So if you want something to do and you have nothing else in your queue, okay, maybe give it. And you're into slow builds, slow tension builds. All right, give it a try. But if you got anything else queued up, I wouldn't.
So, thoughts on your part?
I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terrible by any means, but I would not say go out of your way to see it.
So,
other than for some of the neat visuals.
Okay, so if you have to do like bots don't watch, triangle maybe watch, but with caveats.
Triangle. I'm gonna go triangle. Triangle watch with caveats. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I'm gonna triangle that up too. I mean, like we said, what they were trying for, or the experiment and he was doing here, is very interesting. Just in action, what we actually got out of it was not the best, but yeah, I mean, there's if you're really into movies, there's stuff you can take from this. I assume that this stuff an aspiring director era. I would certainly hope to learn from it. Like we all said, the camera work is very, very good. The atmosphere is actually, except for when they sometimes break it with almost comedic scenes. I'm never gonna have shot show again. But other than that, they do a good job at building an atmosphere there. So there is stuff certain people can take from this, but most people will probably be very bored. So,
The triangle it is. Yeah, don't mean to repeat what you guys said, but like I said before, I like the idea of this film sometimes more than the film itself. And I don't know. I did see it again the second time, and I did enjoy it actually more the second time than I did the first time because I felt I wasn't trying to figure out the dream logic so much as I already had most of the points bolted down. I guess what I really enjoyed about the film was the way it was shot, the scenes, the way it was constructed, and I'll say it. The first 30 minutes are pretty good.
yeah, I'll actually second that. Up until shot shows, those little speeds, that's when it all started going downhill.
So I think there's watch the first 30 minutes. If you want to just dip in for a little bit. Yeah, there are. It doesn't. It's not without its problems. Like I really do wish the world disappearing could have been shown a little bit more convincingly, or I don't know, something to make us feel like the people he had seen around us are just gone and disappearing, and there's just like these stains everywhere, or something. And I want to give the director a lot of bonus points for, I don't know, not following the total standard Japan fare of, a ghost with a vengeance and is out for, vengeance and, it's got an onen and it's sticking around the world to get revenge on the people there. I mean, we just totally just dumped that right out the window for a kind of a crazy new story about ghosts coming back and hell is too full and ghosts are coming back into the world. I'll give him props there, too. Like, he didn't take your standard Japanese schlock kind of your tropes in there, so I want to give him points for that. And I don't know. Again, I just like the idea of the film more than the film itself sometimes. So I'll give it a triangle too. But it's an I think it was an interesting experiment, and it deserves praise for a lot of it. There's a lot of decent parts of it. So it is slow, and the kids today with their internets and their Avengers and their Ant-Men, who knows? I don't think they have the patience for this. But if you like a slow burning film, watch the first 30 minutes anyway, and get your fill of that. And that's it.
I guess that means that our official TPS rating is Kiko Ho.
Go.
Wow.
And with that, we are working through the anatomy of disgust. So look forward to that sometime in the future. Sure, thank you for watching. Leave comments and down in the comment bar. We love your comments. And what we wake up for every single day.
This movie was actually really before its time. Maybe they actually told me that there's a bunch of evil, lonely people on the internet that are willing to try to kill me and bring me into their crazy, hate-filled world. Wait, that's not what this film was. Anyway, it was ahead of its time. It knew. Anyway.
I actually 100% agree with you on that. And on that note, this is the TPS signing off.